Hello. Hope you all are doing well. It is technically Moon Day. No, it's calendar day. It's a Monday, but technically, as far as planetary days go, it's Sunday, and I believe it is a Jupiter hour. Um, and I hope you guys have had a good week so far, whether you celebrated the Lionsgate portal on 8/8 or not. Astrologically, like technically, it's the alignment of the sun and Sirius is the Lionsgate portal, but that happened in July. So technically, it's actually not backed by astrology, but I know it's a new age modern concept, and so the roots of 8/8 does not hold much relevance as far as historically. Um, but the symbolism and numerology of it is something that people do celebrate. So whether you did or not, it's something to respect. And I hope that, going forward, we don't get into these like divisive name calling, whether people celebrate 8/8 or not. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Astrologically, technically, the sun and Sirius lined up in July, but and it changes every year. But the symbology and the numerology of 8/8 is connected to like the infinity symbol, and there's a lot of spiritual meaning behind it. So kudos if you did, kudos if you didn't. No name calling is necessary. So we've had a pretty chill week so far. This coming week, mid-August, will be a different story. There's a lot of squares, aspects of tension going on among the mutable signs, so Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. And these are energies of, again, mutability, like all the different options and information. And Virgo and Gemini are ruled by Mercury, which is retrograde at the moment, and it's in the earth sign, home sign of Virgo. And then Sagittarius and Pisces are ruled by Jupiter, which Mars is about to meet up with. And on the 14th is when Mars meets up with Jupiter at 16 degrees. I think it's actually 16 degrees and 40 minutes. And also on the 14th, there's a lot going on. I actually recommend not being on social media. There can be so much information being thrown around. It's important right now for us to protect our energy. Things are really fragile right now, and so we can be emotionally pulled into whatever is in front of us as far as like news, media, stories. It could be, it is Leo season, so it could be like very dramatic. And so on the 14th, the moon will also be in Sagittarius, which will be opposing Mars and Jupiter, and it will be squaring Venus in Virgo. It'll square Venus and Virgo before it opposes Mars and Jupiter and Gemini, and then it will square Saturn and Pisces. And so over the course of 4 days, these mutable squares, it'll basically be a grand T-square, can be very unpredictable. These are mutable energies, very changeable, lots of different options going on. Jupiter expands and exacerbates and exaggerates, and in the sign of Gemini, Gemini is the sign of communication and media and information, and Mars is the energy of aggression and war. And so this can lead to, and this energy, Mars and Jupiter conjunction, has been considered to be spiritual wars, information wars. Jupiter like being connected to religion, Mars being connected to war. But Saturn in Pisces is also the energy of restriction, spiritual discipline. So it's important for us to also keep those practices of staying grounded, staying centered, just staying out of the way of any kind of disputes. We don't want to get roped into any kind of argument. Whether you agree or disagree, right now it's not a great time to stick your neck out. We can express, we can journal, and get our energy out. We can go to the gym, use your energy in productive ways. Like, we've had so much information overload. We're learning new things and we're trying to figure out the best ways to proceed and, create something new for us, because we know that we're not going back to what hasn't been working before. And so it's like growing these new legs that we're learning to use, and we're so excited to start walking, but we have to know that we're going to wobble and we're going to fall, and we can't be distracted by, an accident on the side of the road. So we can't be rubbernecking when we're learning to use our legs. We have to focus on what's in front of us and what we are trying to do for ourselves, for our own betterment, something that we are creating for ourselves, instead of getting wrapped up into what is outside of us, what we have no control over. I mean, these are tests. Squares are definitely like challenges from the universe. You can also think of it as like when you add a weight plate to your lift bar, you challenge yourself to become stronger. And so each time a weight lift is added, you're pushing yourself, applying more pressure. You've heard diamonds are created from pressure. And so this is universe adding pressure, adding, an additional weight plate to our lift bar to make us stronger, spiritually stronger, physically. We're enduring a lot of, we're enduring so much right now. Like, there's so much grief that we are enduring. Like, Neptune is at 29 degrees right now, and the burden of grief can feel so much, and these squares are really asking us to push ourselves, and your universe is not going to give us more than what we can handle. So we have to trust that what is being presented to us, the challenges that we are facing, is something that we have the ability to handle, and we have the wherewithal. We are equipped, and if we're not equipped, then we are resourceful. We have all the resources to learn how to go about things. And with Jupiter and Mars in Gemini, this is a time of trying new things. Like, try new things until, we narrow things down to what we don't want, and then we are, left with two choices. It's all kind of like an experimentation. Life is an experimentation. We have to kind of see things and not take things personally, like see things as objective. And like, that's a great thing about astrology, is when you have this kind of overview of how things can potentially play out, you have like a understanding of how these energies, each planet, and how these energies have certain personalities, and we can kind of predict or like anticipate certain things. Like, Mars is the energy of impulsiveness and will and aggression, and we can expect some unexpected information that can really be jarring or triggering. And so when we have that information, we can understand, like, it's not intended to make us feel any certain way. It's intended to really, like, step back and have us think about what is being presented. And the squares to Mars and Jupiter from Venus in Virgo and Saturn in Pisces. I mean, this is like a matter of what we understand to be good for ourselves in like service to others, and what's good for our health. Venus in Virgo, like something that is productive, versus, Saturn in Pisces. Saturn is also retrograde right now. So we have to keep that in mind, that like with retrograde planets, there's going to be some revisions that's going to be needed. And Mercury is also retrograde as well. And Mercury rules Gemini. So there's going to be a lot of revisiting, reevaluating, redoing, especially with Jupiter and Gemini for like the next year. We're going to be redoing things, learning how to speak languages. We're going to have these, lessons, like reviewing these lessons and trying what works, like learning from these lessons. And so we can't get stuck on the outcome. And we have to have that kind of grace for ourselves as well as others. Like, we're going to go through these phases of experimentation, and we have to expect that other people are doing the same, and nobody's perfect. We're all in this together. It is pretty much, a shit show right now. But life is a beautiful struggle, and we are really digging up all the things that have not been working. And by the end of the year, we're going to, over the course of the year, things are going to surface, and information and truths may be difficult pills to swallow. And so that's going to have to be something that we are ready for, which is why it's very important to keep those grounding practices, breathing exercises, even if it's working out, like Mars in Gemini, like Mars in general is the energy of action and energy. So we want to use this energy productively, whether you're going for walks or working out, going for a run. In the sign of Gemini, it can be very dexterous activities, like using your hands. So like just getting that anxiety out somehow. And so we want to use it productively, whether it's learning a new language, like learning a new skill, like learning how to sew could be a good one, especially during this time. Just have to be careful with, like, poking your finger or cutting your finger, because Mars is also representative of sharp objects and blood. So just be careful. I've already gotten, like, I don't know how I've gotten all these cuts on my fingers, but they just kind of appeared. I'm not really sure. I didn't really think I cut my hands all that often, but somehow I have these cuts on my thumb. So weird. But it's something to be cautious about. And in a couple of days, I think it's the 19th, actually, Mercury will be moving back into Leo on the 14th, and then on the 19th, it will reach 27 degrees, which means it will come into another square with Uranus in Taurus. And so there have already been some interesting activities. I believe, I forget the guy's name who noticed that there was some information that was scrubbed from Wikipedia. And it happened when Mercury squared Uranus on the 22nd of July. And so, yeah, there were certain, like he did like a search for a former president's name, and there were like 40 mentions of his name in this particular document. And then when he searched again, there was only one mention. And so that that removal of all those pieces of information from that certain ex-president's name was removed on the 22nd of July. And so come the 19th of August, when Mercury squares Uranus again, there could be some sort of revealing of information, or some resurfacing of information that can be a surprise or a shock. And it'll have one more square when Mercury goes direct. I don't have that information currently, but I think it's probably Mercury goes direct on the 28th of August, and it re-enters Virgo on the 9th. And so somewhere within that first week of September, Mercury will square Uranus a third time. So yeah, that'll be interesting to observe. But it's important to not get sucked into all of these distractions that's happening online. Like, the screen is, I mean, we have to take everything with a grain of salt. Like, real life is what's in front of you, like out in nature, your neighbors, your pets, your family. What you can touch and feel is real. Like, what's on the screen can be doctored, can be edited. We have to really use our discernment and exercise our intuition skills to be able to suss out what is true and what is not true. So, which is another reason to, like, also keep those spiritual practices in place, like keep a clear channel, not get bogged down or distracted with things that'll keep us off track. So there's going to be these mutable squares, and then with the square to Uranus again. Molly McCord gave a really beautiful analogy of these mutable squares happening, and like, if you were to look at a chart of these squares that are happening, it's, if you stare at it long enough, then you can kind of see, and like, if you understand like the nature of if you understand the nature of mutable signs, it's meant to move and shift, you know, like back and forth. Like there's different options that all four signs are, you know, like wobbling between, like moving back and forth. Gemini is a dual sign. Pisces is a dual sign. Virgo is very detail oriented, like just looking at everything, you know, every minute detail. And Jupiter, I mean, Sagittarius is the energy of like zooming out and just like seeing the big picture. And so these four mutable signs kind of create this expansive flower of knowledge and like options. And you know, Gemini and Virgo are ruled by Mercury, and Sagittarius and Pisces are ruled by Jupiter. And so expansive energy and detailed energy, like they kind of both create this beautiful movement and blossoming. So we can kind of see how these energies of Mars and Jupiter and Venus and Saturn and the Moon and even Neptune at 29 degrees are all orchestrating this growth and blossoming of our soul that needs change and like is seeking change. And there are groups of us that are excited about this change and want to share this information. And you know, there's communities being created to help one another, like support and encourage all the new options and processes and, you know, directions that we are all moving toward. And there's that excitement. And then there's another group of people who could be spiraling because of the anxiety of the unknown. Like there's change that is happening, but it's a resistance to letting go of what has been so reliable. You know, like we relied on these systems for so long. We, like, a lot of us don't know anything else but these systems. But these systems are proving to be fraudulent or not in our favor. You know, it is time for a change, and we have to like things are being shaken up for our own good. You know, Uranus and Taurus is shaking up our values, our stability, our foundations, our money, like the way we operate as far as like earning a living is changing. Like we are finding ourselves more, or wanting to be more connected to what brings us joy, you know, like what fulfills us. And the squares to Uranus from Leo will continue to enforce that. You know, the sun is going to square Uranus, yeah, towards the end of Leo season. And Uranus is not going to move into Gemini for 14-15 months or so. Yeah, the sun will square Uranus August 20th, so in about a week or so. And so things will really come to another head then. And then this is going to be the last time the sun and Uranus square, the sun in Leo squares Uranus in Taurus, because this time next year Uranus will be in Gemini. Yeah, so this is going to be the last time the sun in Leo squares Uranus in Taurus in our lifetime. And Uranus will be retrograde in late 2025 to 2026. The sun will not be in Leo. So yeah, things are really coming to a head as far as like becoming authentic in our livelihood. Like the livelihood that we choose has to be in alignment with our authentic selves. This is a time to stay really flexible and not attached to any sort of plans, timelines. Like we have to really just focus on the new legs that we're growing and stay in integrity and use our creativity to like exercise our joy, you know, like have fun and like use your creativity without any concern with any profit or any outcome or expectation or having to please anyone or getting approval from anyone. Like this is the time to really build our strength in our new legs and be creative. And we are really limitless right now. Just like go into approach every stitch effort with the energy of no expectations, like not being attached to any outcome, like really stepping away from that capitalistic system where whatever we're doing has to produce some sort of monetary value. You know, it's got to be intrinsic value. Energy is the new currency. There's also the concept of the more we express ourselves from our heart and like authentically like just create, then the more energy that we give off, and in turn like the sun and the solar flares that are coming off of the sun burns off any heavy dense energies that are no longer needed on planet Earth. And so we are really like creating this new world, this new Earth, the more that we can express from our heart and speak our truth and share our truth and get rid of the fear. There's, you know, the fear has been used as a weapon, and it's an illusion to keep us from acting and speaking from the heart. So if we can just, yeah, get rid of the fear and be more fully expressive without any expectation, that would be great. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that was helpful. And we have the full moon in Aquarius on the 20th, I believe, 19th or the 20th. I think it's the 19th. And that is going to be a pretty powerful one. We've had a lot of solar flares recently, which has been energetically draining, but hopefully I will be equipped with the energy to speak about the full moon in Aquarius. It will be right on top of my Mars in Aquarius at 27 degrees. I know that. Yeah, there's a lot going on. I don't want to jump too far ahead. And yeah. So again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your patience. Yeah, I hope you enjoy the new legs and find joy in all the creativity that you start remembering. Like, feed the inner child, and you know, if there's some aggression or triggers or wounds that resurface, I mean, definitely address them and work through them. And you know, like, there are healthy ways of expressing them. And you know, like, if you do feel compelled to verbalize them and like share them with, you know, whoever it is that you feel needs to hear it, there's got to be the practice of compassionate communication, and just understand that, you know, like, trust that whatever is happening or is coming up is in, it's for our highest good. Like, it's in the divine plan, and as long as we are expressing with integrity and compassion, then we can trust that the next step or the next corner that we turn is for our highest good. And we just have to let go of the fear that you know, any sort of punishment is going to come our way. Like, we have to get rid of that fear. You know, these are probably long overdue events that are happening, and once we get through them, we can get over them. So I know it's easier said than done, but we do have to just kind of like trust the unknown, and you know, understand that we are here for a reason. Like truly, like, what a time to be aligned right now. There's a lot of changes, big changes that are coming, and with all these planets moving into new signs, like the big planets, you know, like the outer planets. Saturn will be in Aries, Neptune and Saturn will be in Aries next year, and then like it'll retrograde back and forth a little bit in 2025, and then 2026 it'll stay in Aries. And then Jupiter will be in Cancer by this time next year. Uranus will be in Gemini by 2026. And Pluto will be in Aquarius before the end of the year. This guy. So yeah, a lot of big shifts. So there's a lot of changes that we have to get used to. But a lot of new beginnings, and so that's something to be excited about. So yeah, here for it. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that made sense. Just quiet. Say hi, Momo. Hi. Okay. All right. Thank you again for listening, and I will see you on the next one.